All right, what's going on, everyone? On today's episode, we are taking the boat out, but more importantly, before we get rolling out, we are going to make sure everyone knows the startup procedure and how to get everything done on the boat, because they were asking just as far as unplugging the boat when we get here, turning the batteries on, actually starting it, how we cast off the lines and everything else, so it's not just 100% dependent on me. And again, this is today's episode about learning some stuff. So we're going to go ahead and have someone record it and go through it so that we have it for our own record and so that you guys can see what we go through. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do, we do have a line that goes in. We've got a trickle charger that goes to the batteries, so we can go ahead and get that unplugged from the shore power. So Trinity's going to go over and do that, and she'll kind of coil up the lines and throw it up, and we'll bring that line, the extension cord, back onto the boat. Okay, so hand it around to yourself and walk it back. Now, is there a spot that you can actually get on the boat now?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all that needs to be done. And then it's important that you keep everything clear as far as your feet too when you're on your boat. You don't need anything getting you wrapped up, tripping, falling in, so we'll take this and we'll go ahead and coil it up well, so it's out of the way, and so no one trips over it.
Jeff's got that quick wrist action.
Now, if everyone pays attention to that quick wrist action. Next thing we're going to do is turn on the batteries. We have a switch, so we turn it off so it doesn't use battery power. It doesn't slowly drain it when we're not on it. So we've got a couple of banks of batteries here. I turn them both to all because I turn them off at the end of the day. So I'll turn it to all so it just uses full battery power on there. And while we're in here then, we'll get everyone on this side and we're going to check the fluids before we get rolling. So one thing, because we did have the starboard engine overheat, now each time I'm checking the fluid. So you can see in here, it's got a good level as far as the antifreeze, that's the coolant to keep it from overheating. So I'll check the same stuff on both sides, getting in there. We're checking the oil, and you can see there it has a little full line. Checking there, that's good to go. And if I can find the hole to get it back in there. And the other one's right up underneath here. And it could probably use a quart, but that's not a big deal. We're going to be changing the oil soon, so I'm just going to let that go so long as it's not down to the add range. You can see there's full and there's add. It was about halfway in between, so we're good to go there. So good on the oil, and then I'm just going to check this antifreeze. And you can see it's still at a good level. So our last change and fix on that was good. Okay, so we can close this. We got our batteries on, fluids are good. And then we'll go ahead and get it started and let it warm up a few minutes while we kind of get everything else squared away.
Should I stop it?
Nope, roll on up here.
Okay.
I know how to start it. Okay, so one of the things now that we've got our power on is this switch here is a blower to the bilge. Kick it on, and you can hear it. It's a fan that blows air out of the bilge, and you do that so in case there is any gas fumes or anything else in the bilge, when you start it, there's a spark, and that could cause that to explode if there's fumes in there. So that's one of the things. We got 2 engines, so I actually start my left one first, because for some reason it's a little quieter and I have a hard time hearing it. So we're going to give it a little bit of throttle. It's kind of like choking the carburetor, getting a little gas in there, and then just cranking it up. And so then I try and get it throttled down a little bit. You can see it's running a little bit high. I have the gas on there until it warms up a little bit. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Big whistle is for the starboard engine. So I kind of pump it a little bit. Alright, so now we got them both running. We'll let them run again a little bit high, but that gets them warmed up, gets the gas flowing through there, and then we'll get, like I said, about 5 minutes on there, make sure we got everything else squared away that we need, and then we will cast off our lines. Alright, so we are getting ready to cast off the lines. The lines we have 2 up front, we've got 1 little tender line here on the side, and we've got 2 that cross in the back that come into here. So the thing that I do so that we don't drift forward is we'll go ahead and get that line off first. And because we have our little tender line, it keeps us from going too far to the sides or too far forward. But that's the last line that I cast off there. So Isaiah's getting that one. He's going to pull it out by hand, and he's going to walk it over to this side and keep it up on the dock right back up here. Okay, so now Isaiah can't reach, so what do you think you can do, Isaiah? You could do that, or you could give yourself some slack. You could pull yourself over, because you have a hold of that, right? So pull, and it'll bring you closer to there. But I want it to stay up over that and on the deal there. So if you're going, go. Okay. Now set it down so that it doesn't go in the water, right there. You can see we're drifting around quite a bit. So we can control what happens with this one as well. And that happens when you have lots of people on the boat, you know, moving around. Okay. So the next one, we're going to go ahead and get the front lines off. Again, same thing, go ahead and get them untied and make sure that they get onto the dock. And I'm going to go ahead and snug this tender line up a little bit so that it's just a little easier to get on and off while we're right here. This will snug us up. I'm also going to see if my shrimp are still alive. Okay, I've got it tied up here, so you're going to have to flip it to him. Or you can just flip it to the dock. Okay, and just make sure it gets off. And that way you could just lay right down, step off Trin, and make sure it stays out of the water then. Okay, right there. Okay, so you guys step back on gently. And then you can untie the other back one. And now what we've got left is our one tender line here that's going to keep us up against there. So these lines then are going to be ready for when we pull back into port, that we'll be able to get a hold of those easily. They won't be in the water, so you have to prepare for that return trip just as much as when you're going out. And it's always nice keeping the lines out of the water so that you don't deal with nasty lines. No one really likes that. Keep it out of the water. No, right where you were. Lay it down. No, look at this one. Okay. So now it's ready to reach for the next time we pull in, so we don't have to go back there and get them. So now the last thing, I'll jump in, I'll get the shrimp off of here and tied on, and then we'll talk about getting off. Okay, so one thing we forgot to do before we left was check the gas level. I just took it out 2 days before and got gas, so I know, but here's how we have it. We've got our gauges up there, but until the breaker panel gets put in, then those don't work. So there's still manual gauges on here. So using these pliers, I don't know what the heck they're called either, but you come in here, put it inside this, and use it to spin that open. And there we go. We're just under half on this tank, and we have two 80-gallon tanks. So check one there.
So 40 in that one.
And check one here.
Remember, kids, lefty loosey, righty tighty.
Right. This one is right at half. Then, when we're getting gas, you use the same pliers. Snug those back up. Since we have one on each side, right here it says gas, and you use the same pliers to do that. You spin it out the same way. I'm not going to, but that's how you do it. And then one on the other side. But there's a water one on the other side, so that's why you have to know to pay attention.
Water.
Are ready to roll, so I'm going to come over here. I just like to square up the boat a little bit. And this is something I do since I've obviously taken it out a few times by myself. Is I get lined up, and I'll even start taking it out without being on the boat. Engine's still just idling. Again, you put this here so that it's ready for the next trip, and I bring it all the way to the back so that I can reach it early. Going, try and kind of make sure the back end clears so it doesn't catch up on the poles, and now we're on. So now we can just drop it in reverse and move out smoothly.
Do you want me to stop it?
Yep. Hook it over both sides. So now...
So it looks like a pretzel?
I don't know, you just stuff it through and then loop it out over it.
Okay.
So it's got to go wide. So now when we get in, when I'm by myself, I can get into a spot where I need to be, put it in neutral, get out, and I can get off and hold the boat. And pull it up if I'm on the dock.
When
Then
you're
I can
alone,
keep
you
holding-
said?
Yeah, then I tie this one up first, and then I start tying up the others.
How's it going back there?
Good!
Good.
Didn't have to pay attention at all. Not a bad ride.
Awesome. You're up in here, right?
Yeah, so we're all the way down at the end on the right before the road.